Kia ora, everybody. And today we're talking to Mai, who's down in Wellington. Mai, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Mai. I'm a product architect at Xero, working with the payables team, and we help facilitate payments from Xero for our Xero customers from within Xero.
Awesome. Cool. Can you tell us a little bit about how you kind of got into your career? So talking about what you were into at school, maybe if you went to university and kind of the whole career path. That would be awesome.
Sure. Well, when I was in high school, originally from the States. So when I was in high school, that's when dial-up internet was starting to become a thing, and I really wanted my parents to get that for the house. And so I kind of said, "Oh, if you pay for this service, then I'll read up on the internet and learn how to make web pages and do all these cool things. It's really educational. It's not just for me to like look at music and other things online." And so they caved, and so I spent a lot of time like making my own websites, as you do as a teenage girl, making fan sites and
Can I ask with regards to that? Because I mean, the early days of the web, the web
Yeah.
were not as developed as they are now. So how did you find out information about how to? Because I mean, now we've got YouTube and Google's got all the answers. But how did you find out how to actually build a website?
I went to the library and I found
old school.
like and borrowed some books, read through them, and started. Once you get started, then you can see how other people have made their websites and like look at their CSS and all of that. So just picking up things as I went, and then I started uni as undeclared major. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I never really considered computer science because I didn't think what I was doing in my spare time was computers science. I thought it was me just making cool stuff on the internet, but I didn't think it was actually coding, because the things people were coding at school were, weird textual games that didn't make sense to me or didn't interest me. And so it wasn't until I had a roommate that said, "Hey, you should join me in this computer science class because I think you would like it," because we were both in the same math class. And so I started taking the classes just to hang out with my friend, and that's how it started. And I didn't really find a community in computers the whole time, but I just kept going because I knew there was a paycheck at the end of the rainbow. So I kept working. But I never viewed as computers a thing that I chose until I graduated from school and I started applying for jobs, and a startup saw that I knew HTML and CSS and JavaScript, and they were like, "Oh, let's get her in." And I didn't realize the things that I was learning in high school was applicable to the real world, and people would pay me to do that. Yeah, so that's kind of how I got there, and just working through the ranks and having a burnt out sesh, as you do in America, and spending 5 years to like drop everything and study wine and work in wine production for another 5 years, and then and that's what brought me to New Zealand. And life things happened, and now I've moved back into a city and got back into tech, and have found it a lot better working here in terms of work-life balance and stuff in New Zealand versus where I was
in the States
a year ago. So
okay, that's good. Yeah. From that perspective, so I'm presuming you entered the kind of the tech industry as a developer, and now you're an architect. What I guess are the key differences between being a developer and being an architect?
I would say a developer probably isn't looking at the big picture as much as an architect would. There's a bit more of kind of strategic thinking, and also kind of a lot of coordination of prioritizing and working with people so that people understand, like translating the technical stuff to stakeholders that are, the more decision-making types.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Thanks for that. Can you talk us through how your team works? So with a lot of the talks on this channel, we've talked about how they've kind of worked with regards to other development teams or kind of other groups within product. So are you able to kind of just, I guess, talk us through a typical week maybe of how you might interact with other groups and kind of what your priorities are?
Sure. As an architect, I don't have any subordinates. I'm the way I try to work with people is I influence people. And so my role is largely facilitative in that I help my engineers come up with a solution, and I ask pointed questions to keep the discussions focused, but also if they're going in a direction that introduces some risk, I might call that out and say like, okay, if we go in that direction, then you have to worry about these issues. Is that something we want to accept as a risk, or do we want to think about alternatives? And so that's how we get engineering teams to own the architecture, so that when they're part of the decision making, that they actually implement it well and are happy to support it because they came up with it. I work with other architects. We have communities where we collaborate, trying to learn about each other's solutions. So if there's things that we can leverage and surface in our own teams, then that's something worthwhile. Also trying to figure out how we can each become better architects and keeping up with the trends and the different technologies that come out. And we also work together to kind of help define what the Xero standards for different technologies are going to be and how teams should be working. So it's part facilitative and working hands-on with the teams, but also keeping an eye out for other things going on within the company, so that we know that what decisions we make are in line with the direction Xero is taking.
With regards to that piece you were talking about, working along with the teams and kind of asking those, I guess, those challenging questions, can you maybe kind of shed some light on how you do that without kind of running on the parade and saying, that's terrible, don't do that? I mean, I presume that's a really strong skill set that you need in this role with regards to kind of communicating about thinking bigger and
yeah, you need to be able to challenge people, but do it in a way that's not gonna, be confronting, because it's not
still encouraging. Yeah,
exactly, because essentially every solution can be solved several ways. It's just some have different pros and cons, and so with any solution you can point out the pros, but you can also point out the cons, and then we think about, okay, given these pros and cons, which are the bad things that we're willing to live with, because there's never an ideal like this will solve all of our problems.
Yeah. Awesome. What do you most enjoy about your job?
I really enjoy seeing a team come together and start with nothing and come up with something they're excited to build, and then I haven't been at Xero long enough to see the finished product quite, but seeing it come together and seeing that the team's excited about that's probably the best part.
Cool. So on the flip side, what's the most challenging thing in your role?
I would say the most challenging thing would be if there's something that I feel strongly about, because I can only influence. I can't tell people no. I can only just strongly suggest, and that's 95% of the time it's no issues at all. But sometimes there are times where I need to really dig deep and figure out why do I have this issue with the solution going in this direction, and trying to articulate that. That's the biggest challenge, I think.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I haven't heard anybody say it before, but I can see, that would be frustrating. But, can you talk us through what are the kind of the key skills and competencies you think that people need in the roles that you do?
I think definitely people skills, communication, leadership, also humility. I think because like nobody knows everything, and I'm learning from my engineers all the time, and we're learning together. And anyone coming into a new company, they'll bring new ideas in, and everybody can learn. I think time management. Like I look after multiple teams, and so just having to balance that out. And yeah, I think also technical skills, because you have to be comfortable going toe to toe with people that might be passionate about certain technologies. So
yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you very much for sharing your insights and your story with us. And I'm sure that'd be super, super useful to some of the teachers and students out there. Thank you very much. And yeah, I hope you're safe and all well in your little bubble down there.
Yes, you too. You too.
Cool. Thank you. Bye.